Good day. My name is Chantel. I have started this page, channel, whatever you'd like to call it, called Shift Happens. And it's got a meaning behind it which is very dear to my heart. Sometimes in life, we are faced with situations where shit happens. And we get to a point where we have to either sink or swim. Unfortunately for me, the shit happens moment was in April of last year when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. The diagnosis was a massive blow to me. It was a massive blow to me mentally, spiritually, physically. I had an absolute meltdown and I went through some of the deepest and darkest times I've ever been through in my life. So to give you a bit of background, I have been working on the super yachts for the last 9 years, on and off. I started as a chef on the super yachts. I did that for 2 years, and then I decided that I wanted to be outdoors, I wanted to be active, and decided to go the road less traveled by women and went to become a deckhand. From deckhand, I moved my way up the ranks to bosun, or lead deckhand first, and then bosun. And my last position on board was as chief officer. So I was overseas working when the suspicions started to come through of multiple sclerosis. So initially, the things that made me worry about something wrong with me was that my face was a little bit lopsided. So the right-hand side of my face is a lot more active than the left-hand side of my face. After seeing a doctor, I raised some suspicions about a little bit of lopsidedness in my face, and that's when I was tested for Bell's palsy. Nothing came through from a Bell's palsy perspective, but they did send me for MRIs, where I was later told that I had multiple sclerosis. My world fell apart for 3 weeks, and eventually when I went for my spinal tap or lumbar puncture, that spinal tap came back inconclusive of MS. So the lesions or scarring on my brain they could have been from a number of different things. They could have been from COVID, they could have been from long COVID, they could have been from vaccination, or they could have been from multiple sclerosis, but the testing wasn't conclusive enough to diagnose me. So I went back over to the super yachts for another further 2 years, and on a vacation back to South Africa, Cape Town, where I live, I went for a follow-up MRI. I had already returned back to my boat in Fort Lauderdale in the United States of America, and then I got the results that the lesions or scarring on my brain had progressed. So I resigned from my position aboard that yacht and flew back to South Africa to try and get an idea of what was happening. There were a few suspicions of MOG, a number of other potential concerns in terms of what was causing the scarring on my brain. So upon return to South Africa, I was sent in for further testing and another lumbar puncture. So when the results came back from this lumbar puncture, there were O-bands, oligodendrocyte bands, evident in my spinal fluid, and that was what they needed to confirm that I had multiple sclerosis. So once the diagnosis had happened, the world kind of started to get really shaky for me. So first things I started to do was try and change my diet and try and change a few different things. So on my flight path back from the USA, when I was going to be diagnosed, I was sent for genetic testing with 3x4 Genetics, which is based in the United States. Once the diagnosis had happened, the results for the 3x4 genetic testing came through. And there were a number of different worries or concerns in terms of what was going on in my personal genes and things that I was consuming and eating and drinking, and a number of different lifestyle factors that were affecting my genetic makeup and profile. So a few of the things that I found out really quickly is that my body was unable to handle caffeine. So giving up coffee as an avid coffee drinker was a difficult one for me, and the detox from that was quite substantial. But now, 9 months down the line, it's one of the best things I've ever done. My energy is always stable and consistent, and I don't get the ups and downs and dips or not that coffee gives. Now, this doesn't mean that everyone needs to give up coffee. This is just based on my personal genetic profile. With the 3x4 genetics, a number of other things came up. So one of the things that my body is really struggling to do is detoxify. So I went on to a number of different supplements and dietary changes to try and help my body in the detoxification process. So I'd given up caffeine already. I gave up alcohol pretty similar time to the time that I gave up caffeine. Alcohol was a tough one for me, and I will do an entire episode on my experience of giving up alcohol on a full-time basis. Then we get to the dietary stuff. So the people that have put me into contact with 3x4 genetics to have my genetic testing done were epigeneticists and specialists in terms of what is going on in the body. So they recommended to me that I go on a gut reset diet to get my whole microbiome of my body happy, healthy, and in a good place. It's not a short and quick fix, it's a long process, but it was an absolutely incredible experience for me. So the protocol that I went on is called the GEM Gut Reset Protocol, GEMM. And it started with 3 days of juicing, and then after that went into a full diet of trying to eat as many different types of vegetables, different types of proteins, a whole host of different things that we're going to take each of your microbiota and feed and nourish them and get your entire gut to the point where it is in a happy medium and a happy place. So I didn't get immediate results from a weight loss perspective. I didn't get immediate results from a feeling perspective. It took quite a long time. And now, 9 months down the line, I sit 24 kilograms lighter than I was due to a number of different things, but diet being one of them, supplementation being another, exercise, consistent exercise, and getting my entire system and my body into a state of coherence and happiness. It is not a quick and easy process, but every single day that you do 1% better than the day before is a day one in my eyes. So post-diagnosis, some strange things started to happen. So at the time, I wasn't sure what it was, but I lost my ability to speak. So I woke up one morning and I wasn't able to get a sentence out without stuttering, or I wasn't able to get full sentences out full stop. So the message was clear in my brain in terms of what I wanted to say, but then when it came to actually executing that command or that spoken word, sentence, whatever it was, it just wouldn't come out of my mouth, which was really strange. And I didn't put it down to the multiple sclerosis. I didn't know what it was, but it was really strange to lose my ability to speak. It took about 7 days for that ability to speak to come back, and probably about a month later, I lost my ability to speak again. So I called my mom, I was speaking to her about my dog, and just wasn't able to get my sentences out. It was a full stutter, an inability to get that message out, which was terribly scary. After that, my speech did come back. I still sometimes struggle a little bit with speech, so some of the words that I say might not come out fully coherently, and in my videos you'll find that I stutter or I struggle with words. Word recall can be quite difficult for me, so please bear with me in the videos. It is just one of those things that I'm dealing with and doing a lot of training with to try and get full command of my speech back. So my third episode that I had was, it was the middle of winter. It was freezing cold. I was in bed. I had gone to a hot yoga class the day before. I was really cold in bed, and I turned over and I tried to grab my duvet to pull it over me, and my arm did not work. It was absolutely dead. So it was just a dead weight on the side of my body. It was absolute panic and absolute terror that I couldn't use, lift, or do anything with my arm. So I wasn't able to firstly lift my forearm or do anything, but a lot of the supporting muscles around my shoulder blade and everything that supports that arm was also not functioning or responding to commands that my brain was trying to give. So it took about 2 to 3 days for me to be able to start to close and open my hand. And all in all, it took about a month for me to get 75 to 80% functioning back in my arm. At the same time as my arm, my leg also started to play up. So a huge amount of weakness. I was still fully able to walk, but a huge amount of weakness in terms of taking steps. So at the moment I'm sitting on about 3.5 kilometers, and then when fatigue kicks in, it becomes really difficult to walk. My toes drag on the floor. And this is something that I'm actively working on a day-to-day basis. So I'm doing a huge amount of exercises, I'm doing a huge amount of mental exercises, I'm doing a huge amount of mirror work, and all these different things that are helping me to regain function. So I now happily have nearly all function back in my arm. The only thing that I do have is some tremors, particularly when it gets cold, but I also get tremors when I'm trying to do something very specific. So if I'm trying to point at something, I get the tremors. So in my video, you'll notice sometimes when I'm trying to chop things or trying to cut things, I might stammer a little bit. My walking may not be 100%, and I do have a little bit of shakes, but that is just something that I am actively working on a day-to-day basis to get full function back. So why shift happens? From a nutritional perspective, I have had to completely overhaul my life. So giving up alcohol and caffeine were the first, and getting into a super nutritious diet where in every single meal I have to have something purple, I have to have something orange. So purple for polyphenols, that would be your red cabbages, different berries, anything that's got a dark blue or purple tinge to it. Something orange for beta carotene, the beta carotene and the orange fibers of different orange vegetables. So your butternut, your sweet potatoes, anything that has an orange hue. Something has to be green every single day. So basically in every meal I'm aiming for kale, spinach, leaves, broccolini in particular is absolutely incredible. So I try and incorporate that into every single one of my meals. In this whole process, I gave up gluten, dairy, and eggs. So the reasoning behind this is that gluten, dairy, and eggs, when they are ingested into the body, the molecule of that protein, so the protein being gluten, casein in milk, and the protein coming from eggs, when that gets ingested into the body for somebody with an autoimmune condition, particularly mine, my immune system is attacking the neurons in my brain, or particularly the myelin sheath, the coating of the neurons in my brain. So when I ingest eggs, dairy, and gluten, molecularly what it does is that it looks like myelin. So if I'm eating those things, I am potentially putting my immune system on active or high alert, and my body cannot tell the difference between the molecule of those 3 ingested proteins and the proteins in my brain, covering all of the neurons in my brain. So I gave up dairy, gluten, and eggs. A lot of the recipes that I do, I totally understand that not everybody has to give up gluten, dairy, and eggs, and this is not just a channel for those with autoimmune conditions. It's a channel for anybody who wants to eat more healthily and prepare their foods in advance more healthily. Another thing that I had to give up was nightshade vegetables. So those nightshade vegetables are tomatoes, capsicums, peppers, potatoes, brinjals or eggplants. Those foods are highly inflammatory when we eat them. A lot of people are totally able to eat them and not have any form of inflammatory response. But particularly for me, with an inflammatory chronic condition, I have to stay away from those things. So in the recipes that I do, I will be including these, but I will be making notes in terms of those with inflammatory autoimmune conditions that maybe they would like to leave XYZ out because of what it's going to do. So this channel is firstly going to be about food and nutrition. I'm going to be focusing on different recipes and healthy foods one can make. But particularly, I understand that people have busy lives. You can't make a salad every single day with 20 different vegetables in it, or 10 or 15 different vegetables with a number of different colors and a number of different things that you have to try and incorporate into your lifestyle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be pre-preparing a lot of individual things and then throwing a lot of things together. And I want to display how simple it actually is to make a whole bunch of healthy stuff and have beautiful healthy snacks that are in the fridge at all times, so you're not reaching for processed and bar-coded foods, but instead you've got a plethora and a whole variety of choice sitting in your fridge. So it's about getting rid of the highly processed foods and focusing on simple to make, simple to prepare, pre-prepared, sitting in your fridge, and then you can throw together the most amazing combinations. So that's going to be the first part of my channel. I'm going to be focusing on nutrition and different recipes that you can use to make incredible salads, incredible meals, and I do hope you follow along to find some amazing intel in terms of making incredible salads. Where I live in South Africa, everybody calls me the salad queen, because I do love to put salads together and always have a variety, not this dull salad with some cucumber, tomato, feta, avo, which was my original way of cooking. This is about throwing beautiful ingredients into salads and breakfast bowls and getting all that food in that feeds your microbiome, because everything comes from the gut. Everything in terms of being healthy and happy comes from the gut. So the second part of Shift Happens is going to be around different workout routines that focus on challenging your body in a way that maybe you don't necessarily get challenged normally. So doing an exercise that makes my leg go this way and my arm go this way, creating new neural networks and pathways that are going to challenge and exercise your brain to create new neural pathways. A lot of my exercise is going to be focused on neuroplasticity, which is getting your body to start to get used to different things, not the stuff that's your normal mundane squat, lunge, even though I do those too, but working on exercises that are going to challenge your brain and develop your brain in terms of moving forward with exercise and strengthening the body. Now, another thing that I'm going to be focusing on is a whole bunch of different types of sections. So different information streams that are coming into your body while you are completing a certain exercise. So, for example, proprioception is my brain understanding in space and time where this hand is right now. Often, as we get older and as we deal with autoimmune conditions, particularly that affect the brain, we start to lose proprioception and a whole bunch of different types of perceptions. So my different exercises are going to be focusing on proprioception and understanding where the body is in space and time. Yoga is an incredible exercise for developing proprioception, so yoga will be part of the different workout routines that I do, as well as a lot of weight training, trying to maintain or build muscle, because if we're losing muscle, we're starting to atrophy and lose progress in terms of our bodies. This is just for anybody who is in normal workout routines, a normal lifestyle, all the way through to those that are struggling with autoimmune conditions. And then finally, the third part of Shift Happens is going to be around headspace. So post-diagnosis last year, I went through probably the deepest and darkest hole I've ever been through as a human being. And I've been faced with some pretty crazy things in my life, but this was another level of trying to deal with and cope with and understand what's happening in my body, and still trying to do what everybody's telling you to do, which is stay positive. It's not really that simple to do once you've been diagnosed with a chronic autoimmune condition. It's a challenge. So I adopted a whole bunch of different practices from the second that I get up in the morning all the way through to the time that I go to sleep. And these practices are adding to my headspace. So they are putting me in a good relationship with myself. They're putting me in a good relationship with my body. And they are developing different information systems that are running through my body at any given time. So I'm going to be focusing on headspace a lot. and some of the practices that really, really help me. And if they can help you, then it's one huge gain for the world. So when we are eating, ingesting, taking in information, taking in social media, taking in a whole bunch of different things, we are ingesting things and information into our bodies. So I'm going to be speaking a lot about biofeedback in terms of information that you are telling your body as all of these things are ingested into your body, and information that your body is telling you. So, for example, if I'm walking around the organic market where I shop, I particularly look around and use all my senses to choose what vegetables I'm going to be buying. So I'm trying to get a feedback mechanism in terms of what is my body needing. And this takes a while to develop. But starting to get to the point where you are listening to your body and you are communicating openly with your body in terms of what it wants, we start to create this coherent information stream running through our bodies. The same thing is true for what I'm ingesting. So if I pick up a smoothie for breakfast, for example, I am telling my body exactly what is going in. So it's a conscious and mental command and information stream in terms of what is going into my body. And I am telling the body what this blueberry is doing for my body, what this banana is doing for my body, this kefir is doing for my body, and all the different ingredients that are going into my body. The same is true for supplementation, and the same is true for everyday processes that we go through. So whether it is social media, whether it is interactions with humans, what we are willing to put into our bodies and take into our bodies and digest versus what we are looking to keep on the periphery of what's going to affect our headspace. So Shift Happens is going to be a massive, massive dive into headspace, into exercise, and into nutrition. I will be going through a number of different things that I research and I go through. As I digest information, I will share it openly with you. But I just wanted to put this channel together to document what's really going on in my life from a day-to-day basis. And if that can inspire and help you to move forward with general life, autoimmune conditions, at least I can document it and perhaps assist somebody else. So moving forward with Shift Happens, I am looking really forward to sharing some of the information that I have. And I hope that it gives a huge amount of inspiration and excitement for what you are dealing with moving forward. I've dealt with a great deal of information coming in the last year, and I don't plan on stopping that information. But I have done a huge amount of nutritional work based on the Walls protocol. Dr. Terry Walls put together an incredible framework in terms of different nutritional profiles that feed your mitochondria. So I just want to give a shout out to Dr. Terry Walls. It has been a good inspiration for me in terms of moving forward with my nutrition. From a headspace perspective, I will go in through each different bits of work of headspace that I have been doing. And I will credit all the authors that have inspired me to get to the point where I am today. So, quick update in terms of where I am today. I'm grateful. Every single one of my appendages work. I can speak freely. and I can do probably more than I could pre-diagnosis. So a great deal of work has gone into that, and a great deal of work will continue to go into that. I will not give up, and I will continue working to make my body, my microbiome, my brain, my head, and everything a happy and consistent and coherent space. I am 25 kilograms lighter than I was on diagnosis. I am feeling the strongest, the most agile, the most happy I have ever felt before. And that's where shift happened in my life. So I will be going through all the shifts that I've done, and hopefully it will inspire you and you'll be able to learn some information from me. If you'd like to go through more, please like and subscribe, and welcome to Shift Happens.